Ready for liftoff. Today's deep dive. We're rocketing straight to Mars.
Ooh, going to Mars, huh?
Not the Hollywood kind, though. We're talking, like, actually living there. You know that article by Adrianto M. about turning Mars into, like, a second home for humans?
Oh, yeah, I remember that one. It's a lot more complicated than just, like, packing your bags and hopping on a rocket.
That's what I thought. But this article lays it all out. 5 big things.
Yeah.
Keeping people alive, like air and all that. Finding food and water on a planet where there's basically none. Getting energy when the sun disappears for months at a time.
Wait, the sun disappears for months?
Yeah, dust storms, huge ones. We'll get to that. Anyway, then there's radiation, which is like a whole other level of scary. And get this, the psychological impact of being, stuck on Mars.
Yeah, that's something a lot of people don't even think about, I bet. Living on Mars would do a number on you, mentally.
Yeah.
But let's back up a bit. How do you even breathe on Mars? Their atmosphere is practically non-existent, right?
Yeah, the article said it's like less than 1% of Earth's. So pressurized habitats are a must. And forget just stepping outside for some fresh air.
Spacesuits all the time.
Pretty much. Imagine living in a spacesuit 24/7. Talk about cabin fever.
No kidding. And what about food? You can't exactly grow a garden on Mars, can you?
Nope, not a chance. The soil is, let's just say it's not exactly farmer-friendly. The article mentions something called hydroponics, which is basically growing plants without soil.
Hydroponics? Is that even possible on a large scale? Like, enough to feed a whole colony?
It would be intense, that's for sure. Picture high-tech, indoor farms where every single thing is controlled. The light, the water, the nutrients, everything. No more just tossing some seeds in the ground and hoping for the best.
Wow, so Martian farmers would be more like, scientists than anything else?
Exactly. Speaking of resources, water on Mars is, well, it's complicated. It's scarce on the surface, but they think there might be tons of ice underground.
Ice? You mean like water ice? We could drink that.
Well, yeah, eventually. But it's not just about drinking water. They'd use the ice for everything, making oxygen, even fuel for rockets.
Wow, talk about making every drop count.
Right. So you've got these Martian farmers tending their high-tech gardens, and you've got Martian miners venturing out to extract ice. What about energy, though? How are they going to power all this? The article talked about both solar panels and nuclear reactors.
Well, solar power on Mars, isn't that a bit risky, what with those insane dust storms?
Exactly. They can block out the sun for months at a time. Can you imagine?
Talk about a power outage. So nuclear power it is then.
Well, not so fast. The article said that using just nuclear power has a bunch of downsides, too. Safety, what to do with the waste, all that. It's a tough one. And maybe a combo of both, at least at first, using nuclear for reliability and solar when they can.
Makes sense. So life support, check. Food and water, check. Energy, check. That brings us to radiation.
Yeah, the big one. Mars has almost no magnetic field, which means cosmic rays just blast the surface. Imagine stepping outside without a spacesuit. Not a good idea.
Not good at all. And the article mentions special shielding in the habitats. That seems intense.
Yeah, it sounds like they'd be building homes out of Martian dirt, basically. It's full of this stuff, iron oxide, that could offer some protection.
Living off the land, Martian style. Ingenious, but even with all that, I can't help but wonder about the mental toll. All of that, plus being millions of miles from home.
That's what I'm saying. It makes you think about what it really means to live somewhere, not just survive.
Exactly. And that's actually something we'll dig into right after this. You know, it's funny how we talk about sending people to Mars, but then it's all rockets and robots and tech,
Right, like we forget there's actual humans going on this mission.
Exactly. And humans are complicated. Imagine the mental stress of it all. Being millions of miles away, cut off from everything familiar.
Totally. I mean, the isolation alone would be tough. And what about the landscape? It's just red dust and craters as far as the eye can see.
Yeah, the article talked about that. Like, even something as simple as sunlight can really mess with you when you don't have it.
Seriously. Imagine living under a pink sky and only seeing the sun, every other day?
Right. So they're looking into ways to deal with that. Things like using special lights in the habitats that mimic natural sunlight. And maybe even like virtual reality setups where you could experience Earth-like environments.
Wow, that's wild. Like a little Earth vacation without ever leaving Mars.
Exactly. And then, of course, there's the communication delay. No more quick chats with friends and family back home. Even a simple text message would take ages.
Oh, man, I didn't even think about that. That would be so tough. It's like, what kind of person would even be cut out for that kind of life?
That's a good question. You'd need someone who's super adaptable, for sure, and resilient, like able to bounce back from setbacks.
Definitely. And maybe a little bit introverted, too. since you'd be spending a lot of time with the same small group of people.
Yeah, good point. It really makes you think about how important the human element is in all of this. It's not enough to just get to Mars. We have to figure out how to thrive there, too.
Absolutely. It'd be a whole new world with a whole new way of life.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, what would Martian culture even look like?
Right. It's a fascinating thought experiment. I mean, imagine a society built on sustainability, where every drop of water is precious, and where cooperation is essential for survival.
That's pretty amazing when you think about it. This whole Mars thing, it's not just about rockets and science. It's about pushing the boundaries of what humans are capable of.
Exactly. And with every challenge we overcome, with every question we answer, we learn more about ourselves and our place in the universe.
I like that. So it's not just, can we live on Mars? It's, should we? And if so, how do we do it right?
Exactly. And that's where things get really interesting, both scientifically and ethically.
It really is a balancing act, isn't it, between pushing those boundaries and making sure we're not, messing things up even worse.
Yeah, like taking responsibility for the impact we have. And not just on Mars, but on Earth too, right? Like all the resources and energy it takes to even think about going to Mars.
That's a whole other conversation. But you're right, it's a huge responsibility.
Yeah.
And it makes you think, like, if we do pull this off, if there really are humans living on Mars someday, what will they think of us? The ones who started it all.
Right. Like what will go down in the Martian history books? Will they think we were crazy for even trying? Or will they see it as like this incredible act of courage and vision?
I'd like to think they'd be impressed. But who knows? Maybe they'll have moved on to even bigger and better things by then, like colonizing Jupiter's moons or something.
Maybe. But in all seriousness, it does make you think about legacy, doesn't it? What we leave behind, what we pass on to future generations.
Absolutely. And for all the challenges, all the unknowns, there's something so hopeful about it, too. This idea that humans could make a home on another planet. It's incredible.
It really is. This article, it wasn't just about the technical stuff. It was about the human spirit, that drive to explore, to push the limits of what's possible. It's inspiring.
Totally. It's like, yeah, Mars is tough, but humans are tougher.
That's a great way to put it. And who knows, maybe in trying to figure out how to live on Mars, we'll learn something that helps us right here on Earth.
Exactly. Like finding new ways to conserve resources or adapt to challenging environments. That knowledge could be invaluable no matter where we are in the universe.
Well said. It all comes back to asking those big questions and not being afraid to really wrestle with them.
Exactly. So to everyone listening, if you want to dive deeper into this whole Mars thing, check out Adrianto M's article. We'll link it in the show notes. It's a wild ride.
Definitely worth a read.
And until next time, keep exploring.